Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is the last video about the NKVD chairman. Today I will talk about Lavrentiy Beria. He stands out among all the NKVD chairmen. You cannot absolutely say that he was a butcher, repressing and killing millions of people. You cannot say he was the liberal reformer. The best description for him would be a technocrat without ideology operating within the system. Lavrentiy Beria was born in 1899 in Merheuli village near Sukhumi in Mingrelian family. Migrel or Mingrel is a sub-ethnical group of Georgians. According to official biography, his parents were common peasants. They grew tobacco, grape, made honey. His mother was also a dressmaker. However, it is hard to believe that poor peasants had money to send Lavrentiy to school in Sukhumi. The life in Sukhumi was very expensive. In 1915, Beria became a student of Sukhumi school, and later he was sent to Baku. In the beginning of the 20th century, Baku was rapidly developing due to finding oil reserves. There, Beria went to technical school. He dreamed to become an engineer associated with the oil production. In school, Beria participated in Marxist gatherings. Beria claimed that he joined Bolshevik Party in March 1917 after protests in school. For Soviet leaders, pre-revolutionary experience was very important, as they could advance in their career faster. Yet Beria's Bolshevik experience is doubtful, as he was sent to Romania in 1917, where he could use his school knowledge to develop oil production. He claimed to agitate people in Romania. In 1918, Beria came back to Baku. After October Revolution in 1917, Russian Empire collapsed. In the Caucasus, Armenian, Georgian, and Azerbaijani republics emerged. In 1920 and 1921, Red Army marched to the Caucasus. At that moment, Beria came to work in Azerbaijani counterintelligence. By 1920, Azerbaijan was ruled by Essaers, Mensheviks, and nationalists. His service in counterintelligence was the darkest period in his career. Beria claimed that Bolsheviks sent him to opponent counterintelligence to spy on them. However, there is no documental, neither verbal proof of that. In 1920, Red Army mobilized Beria and sent him to Georgia as a spy. He was arrested at the border and sent to Kataisi jail, but was released soon after and went back to Azerbaijan. In 1921, Beria became a deputy head of the secret department of the Cheka, predecessor of the NKVD, in Azerbaijan. There, he had to recruit agents, collect and analyze information about political rivals. The main target was to destroy Essaers in Azerbaijan. Beria successfully completed his mission and arrested 32 people. In November 1922, Beria was sent to Tbilisi, Georgia. He became a deputy chief of the secret police. His task was to destroy all social democrats in Georgia. Mensheviks demanded the Red Army to leave Georgia and wanted to conduct free democratic elections. Menshevik uprising started on August 28, 1924. The uprising was suppressed by Bolsheviks. According to rumors, thousands of people were killed without investigation and trial. In 1926, Beria became a chief of the secret police. By the same year, 910 Mensheviks were arrested, and 280 of them were deported from Georgia. In 1931, Beria changed secret police service to party apparatus. He became first secretary of Georgian Communist Party. That was a very important position. His rapid career advancement was explained by two reasons. First, Beria was a peasant's son who spent most of his life not in Georgia, so he did not have connections with local elites and could not strengthen nepotism, of which Stalin was always scared about. Second, Stalin did not like recruitment policy of the previous first secretary. Being a manager in Georgia, Beria was developing Stalin's import substitution program. He increased production of Georgian traditional products, such as wine and fruits. He also started to grow citrusy fruits and tea. Beria became known as a good manager. He did not hide economic and social problems in Georgia from Moscow. He frequently reported about them to Stalin. In those problems, he usually blamed others, like mediators, lack of materials. Beria motivated his workers. In his letter to Stalin, he asked for a financial bonus for workers who gathered tobacco leaves more than outlined by Moscow. During the Great Purges, Beria used the wave of repressions to outflank his rivals. He claimed that they opposed Stalin. In Russia, repressions were conducted by the NKVD. In Georgia, the first secretary himself ordered to arrest powerful party members and poets. On August 22, 1938, Beria became a deputy chief of the NKVD. Stalin understood that mass repressions went out of control, and Yezhov, at that time the chairman of the NKVD, started to jeopardize Stalin's image. Beria was required to stabilize the situation. In the end of the year, Yezhov was already under persecution, and Beria became a chief of the USSR secret police. Under Beria, the arrest continued, but not as much as during Yezhov's era. He banned troika and organized limited rehabilitation. In 1939, 223,600 people were released from Gulag, and 103,800 people from the special settlements. He also offered to rehabilitate the families of the arrested. Beria's task was to substitute Yezhov's people in the NKVD and appoint his own affiliates. In 1939, 7,372 NKVD members were fired and substituted by Beria's affiliates from Georgia. In November 1939, the decree on the NKVD mistakes in prosecutional work was created. Beria emphasized falsification of accusations and tortures during prosecution. During World War II, Beria was in charge of counterintelligence. He controlled some units of military industry and economics. He organized the work in gulags for war necessities. In 1941, Gulag sent 420,000 prisoners to the army, and Gulag's labor force was increased by German prisoners of war. In 1942, Beria was sent to the Caucasus to save Baku's oil industry. There he developed mountain snipers unit, destroyed infrastructure, and made rockfalls to stop the offensive of the German army. Prior to war, Beria and Stalin started ethnical cleanings. The most brutal one was in Katyn. On March 5, 1941, Polish officers were shot down. The order was signed by Beria and Stalin. This massacre was more similar to Hitler's practice mass killings due to ethnicity. During German offensive in the Caucasus, anti-Soviet ethnical uprisings burst out. After USSR stabilized the order, Beria started resettlements. In 1943, Beria moved Karachaev ethnicity to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. 93,139 Kalmyks were moved to Siberia. In 1944, Chechens and Ingushi were sent to Central Asia. Deportation was unfair and cruel. Although there might be some anti-Soviet elements among those ethnicities, majority of people had no connection to uprising and were deported without investigation. After the war, Beria's position strengthened, which made Stalin concerned. He wanted to weaken him. To encounter Beria, Stalin transferred Andrei Zhdanov to Moscow. Zhdanov brought his people from Leningrad. Beria was dismissed and was appointed to manage nuclear bomb project. Luckily for Beria, Zhdanov died in 1948, letting Beria to increase his influence. Stalin was puzzled how to put Beria down and started campaigns against Mingrelian ethnicity, to whom Beria belonged. Stalin thought that Mingrels were political elites in Georgia for a long time. Stalin was dissatisfied how Beria moved his affiliates from Georgia. The reason for repressions were corruption and nepotism widespread in Georgia. In 1952, Beria was still concerned about his position. Mingrels were in prisons. Their testimony could be used against Beria at one time. On March 5, 1953, Stalin died. There is a theory that Beria, Malenkov, and Khrushchev made a conspiracy to let Stalin die and did not call for the doctors when the leader fell sick on March 1st. Yet, it is just a theory, there is no proof of that. On the same day Stalin died, his loyalists divided power. Beria became a minister of internal affairs, but he was an absolute leader in collective leadership. Malenkov, Beria's ally, became a prime minister. He wasn't very ambitious, and Beria was able to push forward his policy preferences. First, Beria offered to transfer Gulag system from internal affairs to Ministry of Justice. Beria forbid torturing people during prosecution. He organized rehabilitation. Through amnesty, 1,201,738 people were released. I think he did it due to pragmatism, not kindness. There were millions of arrested in gulags. They created a danger of uprising. And also, there is a difference between free and forced labor. The later one is less efficient. Beria knew it as he was a good manager. Beria changed command and staff in the army in the republics. He put local generals in charge, as he thought it would diminish anti-Soviet attitude among people. He also suggested to increase independence of republics. Beria's activity started to scare his Politburo affiliates. They didn't want to be pawns in his game. Beria wasn't backed by the NKVD as before. Ministry of Internal Affairs was controlled by other people, and his supporters were either in prison or in other institutions. First, Khrushchev got Bulgarin on his side. Molotov was already upset with Beria's policy on German unification. Malenkov was promised an absolute power. Khrushchev's coup d'etat was backed by the army. On June 26, 1953, Beria was arrested, and on December 23, 1953, he was killed. It is hard to evaluate Beria. There were good policy initiatives and there were bad decisions. In any case, he was a person within the system. That's it for today. I finished my NKVD videos, and in the next video I will go back to the medieval Russia. Thank you for watching me. Please subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.